Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jhanee. I am a flight attendant. If you're new, welcome to my channel. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button and also hit the little bell so you'll never miss when I post a new video. If you're old, welcome back to my channel. So as you can already tell by the title, this video is going to be about what it's like to be a reserve flight attendant. And I do want to make a quick little disclaimer now. These are my opinions. All I can express is my experience, and you can take from it what you want. It's just to give you a bit of an insight on what it's like to be on reserve. With my company, I am a reserve flight attendant. There's two types of flight attendants within the company. There are line holder flight attendants, and then there's reserve flight attendants. A line holder flight attendant is someone who has their schedule for the whole month. They know exactly where they're going. They know their report times. They know how long their layovers are. They know what hotel they're staying at. They know what crew they're working with. That is a line holder flight attendant. That can be good for someone who is a commuter. It's good to have a line when you want to actually plan your life. And then there's reserve flight attendants. Reserve flight attendant is someone who you never know where you're going. All you know is the days that you're on reserve and the days that you're off. So you're on call for 12 hours out of the day, meaning that the company can call you at any time between those hours depending on what shift you're on, and you have to report to the airport to work a trip or sit airport standby or whatever the case may be. Me being on reserve, it can be good and bad. In my case, it's not necessarily good because as you guys have heard in, what is that? As many of you guys have heard in my previous vlogs, you know that I live in Atlanta and I am a New York based flight attendant. So obviously that is a very hard commute for me. I am on reserve in New York, and sometimes I sit in New York and I don't get used, which kind of sucks because it's like, okay, like I sat here for pretty much 12 hours and I didn't get used when I really could have been sitting reserve in Atlanta. It's not good for me because I'm a commuter, and the only reason why I'm a commuter is because physically I just cannot afford to live in New York. I actually have family in Brooklyn, and I do a lot of my flying out of LaGuardia. I can do flying out of JFK as well, but most of the flying that I do is out of LaGuardia, and the commute from Brooklyn to LaGuardia is tough, especially sometimes I get 5 a.m. airport standbys, and it's really hard to get to LaGuardia at 5 a.m. when you're coming all the way from Brooklyn. That's just how that is. So that's a really big con for me. It's not really good being on reserve as a commuter, especially when you don't know where you're going and you don't really know how to pack either. It's like you can be going somewhere hot or you could be going somewhere cold, and it's like, so you just kind of have to like play it by ear and see how it goes. The pros of being on reserve is you pretty much get paid for sitting at home. So it's like, even if you sit reserve and you don't get used, you're technically still getting paid, because every airline, well, mostly every airline to my knowledge, you have a guaranteed amount of hours that you get paid for, regardless of if you work those hours or not. If I sit reserve in New York and they never call me, I'm still going to get paid. Now, the only downside to that is that as a reserve, you make a lot of your money from per diem, and you only get per diem when you work trips. Now, I know some companies give you per diem when you sit airport standby, but you mostly get per diem from when you work trips. So if you don't work any trips, you're not getting any per diem and you're not going to make that extra money. So it just kind of sucks. The cons of being on reserve is, since you're on call for, well, with my company, you're on call for 12 hours out of the day, and you can't have a second job, and you, like I said, you can't commute, you know, because you don't know if you're going to get a trip or not. And you can't make plans while you're on reserve, because you can say, okay, this is my last day on reserve, they're probably not going to call me, I'm at the bottom of the list, and then boom, you get a call saying, hey Jhanee, I need you to work a day trip. So pretty much I have to cancel my plans now because I ended up getting a trip. So just take those things into consideration while you're on reserve. I don't know how long I'm gonna be on reserve. I'm probably gonna be on reserve for a while, seeing as how things are going, but I actually don't mind being on reserve unless I'm in Atlanta. Like, I would rather sit reserve in Atlanta because I don't have to commute to New York. The only reason why I'm in Atlanta right now is because I had 2 days off and I needed extra hours because I honestly have not been flying the month of July. I have literally been working these trips that we have called high speeds or leanovers, where you take the last flight out of the day and then you work the first flight back in. So you have less than 8 hours behind the doors of a hotel. And they can also be called CDOs, which stands for continuous duty overnight. So they're essentially saying that you're on duty all night, but legally a crew can't sit in the airport for over 5 hours, so they give you a hotel. And that's all I've honestly been working all month. I think I've only had 1 trip this whole month, and then the rest of my trips were CDOs or airport standbys. That's it. I have not been getting trips, and I don't know why I haven't been getting trips, because I'm always number 1 on the list and I just never get called out for one. So, you know, that's just that. These are just things to take into consideration when you're thinking about applying to be a flight attendant, because there is a glamorous side and then there's a not so glamorous side. Now, I posted a video about my commuting experience. I actually have 2 videos. One of them was commuting as a flight attendant, and I'll link it right up here. And then there's another video that I made recently about how I was trying to commute home, and this was actually like my real experience, and I'll also link that one right here so you can go and check it out, and so you can actually see how it is to commute and be on reserve. And I would not recommend it, because commuting on reserve is really, really hard, and especially from New York to Atlanta, that's a very popular route and the flights are pretty much always full. So I wouldn't recommend it at all. Also, another thing to consider while you're on reserve as a flight attendant is that you're not going to make any money. I remember when I came out of training, and oh my god, I'm gonna cry. Okay. This was with my previous company. I, at the time, was only 18 when I was at this company. After I got out of training and I went to my base and stuff like that, I kind of underestimated how much money I would, you know, spend on expenses and stuff like that. Like, I didn't know how to meal prep, so I was constantly eating out all the time. And there's just a lot of little things that always add up, and it really takes a hit at your bank account. I commuted, so I had to pay for a crash pad, and I'm talking like I was like eating like ramen noodles and ham sandwiches for a very, very, very long time when I first got on the line, because you really don't make any money. And I know that some people will look at this job and it's like, oh yeah, you know, she's a flight attendant, she's living life, she's making money, blah blah blah. And it's like, no. Like, I enjoy my job and I love traveling, and you know, I'm very happy to be where I am, but in all honesty, you really don't make money with this job until you establish some sort of seniority and your pay starts to go up. For your research, there are some really good websites that can give you some really good insight on how much flight attendants make with certain companies. One particular website is Glassdoor, but I will give you a disclaimer: take Glassdoor very lightly, because some people are just extra and they'll put experiences on there that are really not like that. Glassdoor is a really good website to get an insight on how much flight attendants make. It's not an exact number. Every flight attendant makes a different amount depending on if you're with a regional or if you're with mainline. And don't get it confused, regional flight attendants don't really make that much money on reserve, and mainline flight attendants don't really make that much money on reserve either. Like, everyone has a certain amount of money to where they think is enough money for them, so everyone's experience is different. I can only tell you my own experience, but don't think just because you're going mainline you're going to be making bank. It doesn't work that way. There's a lot of flight attendant YouTubers here on YouTube, and they can tell you about their experiences of being on reserve. So I'm just giving you my experience. But I think I gave you like a nice good overview of what to expect when you think about becoming a flight attendant. Just know that you are always going to start on reserve. I want to be very transparent, and these are just real things that you have to take into consideration when you're going to become a flight attendant. I personally have had some really bad experiences, and they can either make or break you in this industry. So it's not to scare you, this is just being very realistic when you think about applying, because this job is not a 9 to 5. This job is a whole lifestyle change, start to finish, point blank period. Take into consideration before you think about applying. I'm just gonna go ahead and end this video here. I hope it was really informative for you. I just wanted to be really transparent and let you guys know my experiences and what I go through, so that you guys can take it into account if you think about becoming a flight attendant. So I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.